Christian McNeil. Let's get right to it. Brian, what's going on? That's Marvin Gaye. What's going on? You can see all the craziness that's been going on for the last couple of days. I think people caught off guard by how swift and crazy things are getting. I feel like Cersei Lannister has taken over from the Game of Thrones. I don't know what people are, how they responding emotionally to this stuff. I know that spiritually, I mean, it has to be affecting people's space uh, um, in one way or the other, and we really have to prepare ourselves and hang on to one another and, show love and give people grace and, you know, try to strengthen all of the resources that we have. It's like you getting prepared for a long winter, bringing all of the furniture in the house and stocking up the place with food, emotionally and spiritually. I mean, to get ready for what's about to happen. The mean spiritedness and the ugliness that I see is just vile and almost contagious. Even the comments that people make, it's so easily to dismiss people's humanity is, you know, really, really, really deep. I guess people don't care what happens to other people until it happens to them. And this is not the, you know, place we decided to be a part of. So today hopefully we can give you some good vibes. We have fayemi shakur with us today. Um, Art and education here, getting ready to talk to us about the poet laureate position in Newark that we've created. I mean, New Jersey used to have one; they got rid of it, but Newark is created one, and we talk about how to be a part of that and how to be in that and some other things as well. James Wingfield, how you doing, brother? Derek Williams. So, fam, you want to talk about this poet laureate position here in Newark?
Yes, sir. Hi, Mayor. Thank you for having me on today. I am very excited about this opportunity. We have not ever had a city poet laureate before, and we should. We're a city of poets. We have so much history around poetry and around culture. We felt like it was necessary to bring it back, bring it to the forefront. I know that some people think poetry might be frivolous. One of my favorite poets, Audre Lorde, said poetry is not a luxury. Later on, I want to read something by her, but right now, the deadline to submit your application for Poet Laureate is Monday, February 3rd at 11:59. We have a platform called Submittable where we're accepting the applications. That information is on Facebook. You can email me directly if you need it at shakurf@ci.nj.us. But I just want to go over the guidelines a little bit so people know what we're looking for. This is not a poetry contest. This is an appointment, a person who serves as a representative of our poetry community that serves to promote the literary arts, that encourages our residents and our young people to engage in poetry and the arts. It's a 2-year appointment. And we've really got together a wonderful group of community stakeholders who will review the applications because I don't want to make the decision. We have an amazing city of talented poets. It's going to be a really hard, tough choice. But our stakeholders include the Board of Education. We have some representatives from the board. We have representatives from the Dodge Poetry Festival and NJPAC. We have folks from the Newark Public Library, as well as professional poets who will serve to help us make this decision. So, a little bit about what you should know about the guidelines is you should be a Newark resident, right? You're serving Newark. You should be from here, raised here, maybe, but definitely have a, um, a hold and an understanding of our poetry community so you can bring the poetry community together. You should have some experience producing poetry events and doing providing poetry workshops, arts education, so that you can serve in this position to create some more poetry programs for our young people and our residents. You'll also receive a $5,000 stipend for this work and $10,000, up to $10,000 for those poetry programs. So it's an excellent opportunity. I've been researching other city poet laureates all across the country, and I'm sure that this program will be hailed as one of the best. Um, that's a summary
Yeah,
of what we have. But I wanted to share, if I could, Mayor, just briefly, something Audre Lorde said about poetry.
yeah. Go
Occasionally,
ahead.
I see people say things like, oh, we should focus on homelessness, or we should focus on crime, or why are we talking about poetry? Well, we can do all those things, and we are doing all
In
of those
poetry.
things. To think that we're only focusing on poetry and not focusing on any other thing, come on, that's not the case.
Right.
But Audre Lorde said this about poetry. She said, poetry is not a luxury, it is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of the light within, which we predicate hopes and dreams towards survival and change. First made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action. Poetry is the way we give name to the nameless so it can be thought. The farthest external horizons of our hopes and fears are cobbled by our poems, carved from the rock experiences of our daily lives. Poetry consumes every emotion. I don't know a poem that doesn't reflect every emotion we have, whether it's joy or fear, despair, love. All of the emotions we experience as human beings can be found in a poem to uplift us, to educate us, to remind us of our humanity. And I really look forward to the submissions that we receive. And I encourage folks, even if you're not sure, like, oh, I don't think this opportunity is something I could get, submit. Submit your poem, share your work,
Yeah.
and we look forward to seeing what we have and who becomes our first City of Newark Poet Laureate.
Yeah, I look forward to that. That's why I used to read poetry every day during the pandemic, to uplift people, educate people, and inspire them, burn a fire in their belly. I grew up listening to poetry, to some very great poets that were alive and well in front of me. Sonia Sanchez, a poet named Linton Kwesi Johnson out of Jamaica, the dub poet, Miguel Algarin and Miguel Pinero, New Eurekan poets out of New York City, my age, Willie Perdomo and Asha Bandeli, and all of those folks who I grew up, with my contemporaries in poetry. But obviously some of my favorite poets, my mother and father, some of my favorite, Langston Hughes, uh, you know, um, some of my favorite poets there. Uh, Curtis Mayfield to me is a poet,
Hmm.
and he's one of my favorites, musicians, but also poets as well. And obviously, I would say, uh, the folks from the last poets, but mainly Gil Scott Heron, who is by himself in that, who I used to read during the pandemic. Whitey on the Moon is one of my favorite poems, and you know, Gal Kalin, uh, is important too. So I can go on and on about the poets I love, but I grew up listening to poetry, and I think what somebody wrote on here to change your life is right. That's for sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll
One
go
of
back to reading a poem at the end of these things all the time.
Yes. Can I read one? I have one. It's called A
Yeah, go
Litany
ahead,
of
read it.
Survival.
You can end us
Yeah.
with this poem right here.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, me. All right.
Yeah, you.
A Litany for Survival by
Ah,
Audre Lorde.
yeah.
For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing on the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone. For those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, who love in doorways coming and going, and the hours between dawns looking inward and outward at once, before and after, seeking a now that can breed futures, like bread in our children's mouths, so their dreams will not reflect the death of ours. For those of us who were imprinted with fear, like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk, for by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy footed hope to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. We are loved and we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard, not welcome. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive.
Wow, that's excellent. I love that. Yeah, let's fight back with poetry, with love, with intelligence, with all of the things that we know how to fight back with. That's for sure. And I would end by saying we can't support people who don't support us. Spend your money wisely. Make sure you invest in business and institutions that invest in your family and your children, that believe in your humanity. That's for sure. And let's read some poetry, y'all. I think I'm gonna get back to that on these Facebook Lives. Thank you,
Excellent.
Fayemi, for getting on. When we pick a person, we gotta get on, bring them on, and bring them on with you, and let them read a poem for us. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.